give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Can't outrun the sunrise. Lu Fang. Welcome to another Exotic Review, Guardians. Today we're looking at the MASTERWORK Sunshot. Before we begin, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone for supporting my content. My recent exotic reviews have been getting a lot of traction and positive reception lately, so I really appreciate that. It looks like D2 is on the up and up, and I don't have any intention of stopping, so stick around. I'll still be here making content. Alright, now where were we? Sunshot can be obtained either randomly from exotic engrams or when Xur sells it on weekends. You get the exotic catalyst by reaching rank 50 in future war cult during faction rallies. If you pledge to Dead Orbit or New Monarchy this last time, you'll have more opportunities to get it in the next couple months. After you get the catalyst, simply get a bunch of explosion kills until the meter fills. Like all exotic weapons, the perks it comes with are immutable. Its generic weapon behavior perks are 1. Chambered Compensator, which increases stability, recoil, and slightly decreases handling speed. 2. Accurized rounds, increasing the range. And 3. Textured Grip, which increases handling speed but decreases stability. I should take this moment to say that I find this style of exotic design a little weird. I prefer D1's exotic weapons, which actually gave you a lot of options to customize your weapon to your playstyle. The Last Word, for example, came with single point sling as an option that further decreases your ready and put away speed. It's stacked on top of perks like Blade Dancer, Quick Draw, and Ophidian Aspects. Yes, it negatively affected some other stats on the weapon, but the simple fact that it was there as an option was pretty nice. But here in D2 we have strange combinations of perks that work against each other without any option to adjust. Chambered Compensator and Textured Grip, for example, appear to essentially cancel each other out on the handling stat. It's not that big of a deal, but just food for thought. Moving on to Sunshot's premier perks, we have Sunburn and Sunblast. Sunburn provides explosive rounds and the added benefit of marking targets, and we'll get to that in a second. And Sunblast causes enemies to explode, which explosion can further chain if a lot of enemies are clumped together like you saw in the beginning of the video. Sunshot is part of the 150 rounds per minute family of hand cannons, meaning its precision hits are an even 60 and body shots for 40. And if you didn't know already, that's a 4-tap kill in the Crucible, provided that 2 of those are precision hits. Explosive rounds splits those numbers the following ways. Precision damage to 40-20, and body shot damage to 20-20. Explosion rounds is one of the best perks in the game. It's why you see Better Devils and Nameless Midnight used so often. The reason is because the explosion damage doesn't suffer from damage falloff. This means that even though the bullet itself will be hitting for less damage outside of the weapon's intended range, the explosion portion will still do the same amount, no matter what. The second part of Sunburn, where it marks targets, is a bit of an afterthought. When you land a hit on a target, they become covered in burning embers. I suppose that it could count as a mark, but it doesn't really provide any utility. I think that the idea is that you can visually see and better acquire your target while you spam the trigger. The term marked makes me think of the X that Foe Tracer puts on enemies, but Sunshot doesn't do that, and I've never felt that the burning effect helped me to keep track of anyone. At least it looks cool, though. Since release, Sunshot's explosive rounds compensated for its relatively low range stat of 38. However, once fully masterworked, the catalyst helps to make Sunshot more viable, especially for controller users. That's because it adds a whopping plus 30 range, bringing it up to 68. This makes Sunshot the single highest ranged hand cannon currently in D2, at least on paper. Before Masterworked, Sunshot's damage will begin falling around 27 meters. Afterward, it won't start falling until 31 meters. To put that in perspective, On Bannerfall, it's the distance between the center pillars to the grass of the tree stump. Not too bad at all. Remember, this is the point at which the damage starts to fall off. After that, you still get the benefit of the 20-point explosion no matter the distance. For comparison, I looked at a number of popular hand cannons with high range stats and or range increasing perks to see how they compared to the improved Sunshot. First is the other popular explosive round hand cannon, Better Devils. With Sure Shot selected, we start to see damage fall off at around 28 meters. The second gun I chose to look at is Jack King Queen. It previously held the highest range in the 150 RPM category of hand cannons because it also has the range-boosting ricochet rounds perk. Jack King Queen and Sunshot Masterwork are now tied at a 31-meter maximum range. There is only one other way to break this 31-meter barrier, and that's with the perk Opening Shot, which increases range and accuracy on the first shot of attack. This brings us to DFA. With the right perk selected, DFA has the highest range for any kinetic or 140 RPM hand cannon. When Opening Shot is active, DFA has a potential 33-meter window to work in without experiencing any falloff. Let's move on to the other stat that gets an increase when Sunshot becomes masterworked. While not as massive as the plus 30 range, Sunshot gets a generous plus 20 on top of its base 46 stability, bringing it to 66. This was an interesting stat to test. I first started looking at recoil direction differences. I did a plus 0, plus 1, and plus 2 energy counterbalance pattern testing for both pre- and post-masterwork, totaling 6 patterns to look at. And while doing it, I started to notice that there really wasn't any difference in pattern behavior when adding any number of counterbalance mods. This is because Sunshot's default recoil direction stat is a whopping 98. In other words, counterbalance mods have a negligible effect, if any at all. If you choose to main Sunshot, make sure you put more other useful perks on your armor, as wearing any counterbalance mods would simply be a waste. That doesn't mean that the plus 20 boost doesn't do anything, however. On the contrary, the stability stat also affects the space between shots.
Not now, Dave.
Post-masterwork bullets are noticeably closer together. Here are some before and after recoil patterns for comparison. And check out how different the weapon kick is with 2 Sunshots firing right next to each other. There's no question that the buff helps to keep the kick in check. So what does this mean in action? Well, it means that the reticle drops back down to default sooner than it did before. I found that when I otherwise would use the flick method with other hand cannons, flicking actually threw my aim off because I was overcompensating for the old kick that I was used to. I personally found my shots landed more successfully without flicking. So what are some more notable pros of the Sunshot? Sunshot's Sunblast perk can deal massive damage in both PvE and sometimes in PvP. Sunshot is one of the best weapons for clearing trash mobs, with only Graviton Lance and Risk Runner for competition. You'll often chain explosions in PvE, and the explosions, however, are less potent in the Crucible. The maximum amount of damage you can deal with the explosion is 100 points to another Guardian. Expect to get double kills on occasion, but mostly singles and rarely 3 or more. And finally, Sunshot has best-in-class handling and reload speeds. Because the Masterwork focuses on damage fall-off and a more manageable weapon kick, I'm tempted to think that the buffs are mostly intended to make Sunshot more effective in the Crucible. Unfortunately, there are 3 glaring cons to Sunshot that, in my opinion, hold it back from excellence in PvP. The first is its measly magazine size of 8 bullets. More often than I would like, I find myself running out of shots while in the middle of gunfights, which can be a frustrating experience. I'd rather spend more time shooting and less time reloading. The second is a little more difficult to notice. I've watched a lot of Sunshot review videos to get well-rounded opinions from the community, and one underlying theme kept cropping up among them all. That is, how difficult it is for the Sunshot to acquire its target. Some blame it on the weapon's bulky geometry or the flashy effects, and some just say that it just feels that way without knowing what's causing it, but I think I know what it is. Take a look at these stat comparisons. These are the most notable 150 RPM hand cannons currently in D2. Dire Promise, Jack King Queen, and Midnight Coup. Their average aim assist value is 89.67. Sunshot's aim assist is a dismal 60, almost a 30-point differential. I'm sure Sunshot's bulkiness and bright effects contribute, but I believe this to be the main culprit to why Sunshot feels like it can't acquire its target very well. The aim assist value affects a few things: snapping in on a target, bullet magnetism, and hitbox stickiness. I'm coming at this from a controller user's perspective because the player base majority is on console. Mouse and keyboard users don't really have to worry that much about snapping in on targets or hitbox stickiness. But they greatly affect how a weapon performs when using a controller. This is why we see Sunshot used more frequently on PC than on console. If you're fighting a skilled player who knows how to jump, slide, and strafe effectively, Sunshot will have a hard time staying on target more so than, say, Dire Promise. In PvP, think of Sunshot as your backup instead of your main weapon. Pace your shots instead of spamming it at its full rate of fire. Its best situations are finishing off opponents who are already weak, or when an enemy is forced to approach you in a straight line. In 1v1 situations, you can also crouch once or twice to attempt to throw your opponent's aim off too. Yes, the range stat is fantastic for pushing the damage falloff further out, but that doesn't mean that Sunshot's aim assist will be that much better. Hopefully at some point Bungie will increase this value to be more in line with its legendary siblings. Then again, don't let me tell you what you'll like or not. Some players prefer a less sticky aim assist, and that's totally cool. I just think that the majority of controller users rely on stickiness more so than they think they do, hence why more forgiving guns are also the most popular. And the third con is that Sunshot is, well, a hand cannon. Deep thoughts, I know. But really though, what can a hand cannon do that Antiope does not do equally well or better? Should hand cannons be in a better time to kill spot in the future, I could see Sunshot being a powerhouse. Plus the low mag size wouldn't be as bad with less shots to kill. Until then, you'll need to devote a fair amount of practice time getting good with Sunshot in order to use it effectively. Oh yeah, and one final thing about the Sunshot that I didn't really think is that big of a deal breaker one way or the other. One would assume that because Sunshot is a 150 RPM archetype, that it probably exists as a lightweight weapon that gives a +2 mobility and increased sprint speed when equipped. That's also a nope. You'll run and strafe just as fast with Sunshot as you would with a non-lightweight weapon. The good news is that you can allocate mods like mobility to where you might have otherwise had counterbalance. That's going to be about it for this exotic review. I don't think of exotic weapons the way that I do armor, but if I had to rate Sunshot, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. I probably would have said 6 or 7 prior to the recent Masterwork and Explosion updates, but they really helped to push it up to being a mainstay in my character inventory, rather than just collecting dust in my vault. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it with your Destiny comrades. Let me know in the comments which faction you went with and why. I try to read and respond to every comment on my videos. And let me know you made it all the way to the end by typing the space between. This has been Cal. Have a good one.